Alrighty, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do this quick 4 hour sweep here. Take a look at structure, see what's going on. Take a little quick spin through the 4 hour chart, see where we are for the week. Yesterday was Labor Day. Not really much happened. So let's get this week cracking here. Starting right off, Buttcorn. What's Bitcoin doing? Still in the range from last week. Not really much to say here. Assuming we're going to head a little bit higher to the top of the range. This is just extending out. I guess it's going to pop up a little bit. Redraw this here, just extend this out, see what's going on. Just heading back up to the top of the range. Not much to say. Buy zones and sell zones. We'll just let that float on up. Not probably going to take a long position here. We could look at it on lower time frames, but this is still bearish overall. I'm assuming we're going to pop up here into the top of this block and then sell off again. It's the likely thing. It's kind of one of those things where we don't really want to take a position on it either way right now. I'll try it short from higher or long from lower, if that makes sense. It's just not really in a good spot. Didn't really get much out of it last week, clearly. So right now, short term, it's running back up through. It's kind of floating back up through that sell-off, through that wick there. I could see it possibly breaking the high, popping back up into the top of that block, and then selling off again. So in all actuality, probably some upside over the next little bit today in Bitcoin, but not necessarily the best spot to try that. Moving on to the dollar. 1 second. All right, moving on. Dollar index. Back to the top of the range. We pretty much expected that. Man, so it did break the high again toward the end of the week last week. Probably going to end up being a short here again. As this gets back up toward its highs, maybe start looking to position against the dollar again just for whatever pullback. And that pullback could turn into something much more than that. So that's a thing. Kind of weird and not really much to say about it right this second. We've kind of turned around, got this odd morning star-ish kind of price action here. We have rejected a little bit and turned around to retest the top of this range, but it's at the top of the range on a big macro high. It's already started a range expansion. We broke the low here and then went back and broke the high. That's suspect. Again, we were watching this last week. That's eventually going to be a target to the downside. So we're really looking to short the dollar probably this week. Fundamentals aside, fundamental schmundamental. It's going to be a short. Aussie dollar. It's breaking low. This is also in this big macro structural move here. It's a big range expansion on the macro, and this has taken months to play out. So we're heading back to retest the low, but it again still possible it could make a higher low. So we don't want to really start shorting this now. It's already cut through this current range. If you look at it this way, you split it logically this way, you got a range here. Kind of cutting through it right now. The problem is it's approaching like a swing low. So a lot of times that may slow down right there. I wouldn't really expect this to have a big heavy volume down after those two big candles today, but I don't know. We'll take a look at this on lower time frames. Not really much to get out of it on the 4 hour here. I could see this candle being potentially a small bodied candle with not much volatility. After a move down off the top of the range to break the low, it's probably going to slow down a little bit and may even pull back. So I would let this candle close probably, even though it just now opened. Our 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. candle just opened. This may be a smaller bodied candle. We'll take a look at it on lower time frames a little bit. Still want to be long from lower on Aussie dollar. Moving on, euro dollar. Oh, it's on the low. It's another broken low. Don't really want to be short down here. And it's a range, our effective trading range is this. and we've come off the low of it again. Kind of some weird price action. What it looks like is it's starting to form some inner range right here. We got a spike high. What generally happens after that is there'll be a spike low and then it'll wick back up. That's what I would be watching here on this candle, or the next candle, is some potentially spike low and then wick back up, and it'll define the boundaries of this range right here. That's probably what's going on there. Oh, my emergency alarm telling me to get up. Euro dollar. What do we do with it? It's very low structurally. Yeah, it's kind of, we're in the middle. Talk about our price action hamburger. We're in the meat. We want to stay out of the meat. We always want to stay out of the middle and only trade from the extreme ends of the range of this block that's being formed on higher time frames. It's just, we're right there in the middle. I'm assuming this is going to pop down a little bit, but when it does, the aggressive trade would be to catch the wick back up. We'll see what kind of news we get on that this week too, later on. But yeah, right now, nothing major there in the middle. It's in the middle of a range. Okay, so Euro Yen, here's one. Actually had this short on Friday from, had it within 2 pips. I think it was like 1.4 pips at the top. Epic entry, and caught the whole ride down, and then it ran back up and stopped it out at break even. So once it started to dump, put moves, stopped to break even. It was great. It was pretty significantly in profit, and then it came back overnight here over this last candle of Asian session and stopped it out at break even. So now what? It's on a new high again, and just for illustration's sake, we have a broken high, a broken high, we have a broken high, we've got a broken high, we've got another broken high. Now look at each one of these broken highs and the Mr. Slithery the snake analogy here. What happens every time? Any child can see what's happening here, right? Mr. Slithery the snake is slithering up the hill, slithering up the mountain. He's at the top of the mountain. Where's Mr. Slithery the snake gonna slither to next? Right? A 5-year-old, hand a 5-year-old a crayon and he could tell you that. Just the logic of it, just as a thought experiment. So we're going to be watching the high of the day up here probably for a short. May have already missed it. We'll see if it breaks the high again. I'm going to be entering that again. The aggressive, I mean, it's not even really that aggressive of a trade, but the better risk reward is to be short. The risk is to the downside here on the high, on a broken peak high like that. It's pretty simple. You don't buy higher highs, you sell higher highs, and Mr. Slithery the snake will tell you why. So, moving on, EuroCAD. We'll watch. We're going to leave Euro Yen marked, and we'll watch lower time frames and look at our range tool to try to determine where we may enter that short for reversal. Try to catch some pullback on that, and we'll watch the euro to see if the euro is going to be weak. But right now, the euro is pretty strong. It's the strongest currency short term, and that's why that's way up. But that eventually will turn around. All things come down, that go up. EuroCAD. So we're trying to figure out where this range is going to be. We were trying to guess the other day before we knew. So now we got a little more information. Let me get rid of all this crap. A little more information here. We're going to be looking for this to move up. It's actually looking okay, but a little bit lower on this. Got this little short-term range going on right here. Looking at this block right here. If this is going to come back down and retest this low, if this will pull back down like that, I'm going to be in it long, but from lower down here. Looking pretty good. There's a trade coming here for sure on EuroCAD. Let it come down first. And the structural play here is that, you know, we're just in a range consolidation like this. And as this comes back down, this is very likely going to pull back and go above this to take this money out at some point. We haven't taken out the shorts yet. We took out the longs. We manufactured liquidity in this extended range. Took out the longs here, right? Blang, took them out. Now we're going to go up and take out the shorts and consolidate inside the gap. Very likely. So the question is, where do we get in? How do we get into this move? And we'll just wait for that to go a little bit lower. We already had a chance on it. I think it was on Friday when this dipped down in, we were watching this level. If you look at our last analysis, you'll see this. Very good opportunity to get into here. So if it'll pull back or something, or start putting in some kind of price action that makes sense, we'll try to get back into this. And we're going to first anticipate that this is going to be a range like this that hasn't fully developed, that will step up into a higher level range. So again, we're looking for this to come back down into a buy zone or something, so we could try to take that back up. That would be the better RR. Better risk reward would be there. Euro pound. 1 second. Euro pound. So got a really, really good short on this. Up quite a bit. Yeah, I got a pretty good short on this. It's up quite a bit. Caught it right at the top. It's up, about 70 pips or 75 pips or so. I'm going to be holding this one because of the macro structure. Looking for this to run significantly lower. Hopefully that doesn't get stopped out. It is a lower high and caught it, so I got to stop at break even. I'm going to leave it on. There's a lot of room for this to potentially run down. I know they're expecting some rate hikes on the euro, and again, we've got this juxtaposition here between fundamentals and technicals. It's kind of the way the market's been going lately. It's a short. I mean, this is very clearly bearish, and there's a big weekly level up here. We're in this big weekly range is what it is. If you zoom out, you'll see it, and we just bounced off the top of this big weekly range. So don't want to be long up here. Obviously, it's way up high at the top of a range that just rejected out of this weekly supply level. So we pretty much know where we're watching. We've been watching this one for a couple weeks. We're looking down here. We're looking to come back into it's kind of, this flimsy block back here, but this is going to be an interesting point. This is an important piece of price action right here. So we're going to be looking to retest that. Going to stop out some of those longs, break even. Good move off the low. We came right off the range low, right to the top, rejected. Downside, man. Downside on euro pound. So, and one thing a piece of information we can get from this is that the euro is very likely to be weaker than the pound. And what that could mean, relative volatility wise, is that the pound is strong. The pound could be strong this week. So we're going to watch that, or at least over the next few days. The next, 10 to 20 candles ish or so. Then it could be, pound strength and or euro weakness in. And so that's how we're going to position on this. We're going to use this to, as a kind of tool to tell us what's going on, how we should be placing our risk between the euro and the pound. So right now it's looking like weak euro, strong pound. So that's important. That's an important piece of information. We need to remember that. I'll mark this to keep an eye on it. Right now it's already down as far as today, like right this second. What we're trying to figure out what's going to happen over the next few candles. Like, what are these next 2 to 3 candles going to look like? We've got this one that just opened, our 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. candle. Then we've got our 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. candle. Then our 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. candle to market close. So we've got this one and 2 other candles, really, as far as today is concerned, within our day trading context. It looks pretty bearish to me. There's really not much here holding this up until we get lower. So there's no reason to be long on this. It just may not necessarily be the best entry, but we'll watch this for some volume move short for sure. So watch weak euro today, and for the beginning of the week, could be a weak euro scenario. Euro Aussie. And just as an aside, if we're identifying that there's likely, we're getting the picture painted here that there may be a weak euro, and you got something like euro yen up here on a major peak high, this could be a very good trade short, euro yen short. If we've already identified that the euro is likely to be weaker than the pound, this may be something you want to watch. And maybe we'll wait for euro CAD to come down a little bit. You know what I mean? Before we start entering long. So there could be some weakness in the euro first, is kind of the point, that the picture that we're painting here. So this is going to be important. We're going to watch euro pound, try to get an idea on how we're going to position, how we're going to weight our capital management, how we're going to weight our risk. Are we going to overweight euro short versus something else? It's important. Euro Aussie. What I see here is a whole bunch of highs at one level, and this could be this that has not fully developed yet. Big range down here. Very well could be, and we could look at this on higher time frames, but I really think it's necessary right this second. We're probably in the sell zone or close to it, just some kind of higher time frame block that's forming, like a weekly chart kind of thing, daily, weekly, so we'll watch this. I wouldn't expect this to have a big, huge bullish move. If it does, I would definitely watch for the false move there. If it starts to pop up a little bit, I would be very cautious about that, because the amount of distance that this has traveled in a very short period of time, the amount of distance that this has traveled in a short period of time is suspect. So it's made a very strong move in a very short period of time, all the way from the bottom of the range, all the way up, straight up, bang, straight to the top of the range. This may distribute here and pull back a little bit. Again, we've kind of identified that there's potential weakness in the euro. So this may just support that theory. We are at the top of a range. We'll watch this. We'll watch where our weekly highs and our daily highs are going to be, and see how this plays out. But I would be very aware that there could be a significant pullback here in Euro Aussie as the week goes on. The first few days of the week, something we'll watch. Euro Kiwi, you're going to get very similar structure and price action. The Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar tend to run together, so that's a thing. That was a good short the other day on that. We'll see what happens here. Possible this makes a lower high. See if it pulls up. It's just in a range right now. I mean, this is what's happening here. Is this? It's just hasn't really fully played out yet. We're just kind of getting. It looks like a consolidation here. So we'll be looking to see if that's going to be a good trade or not to come down. We'll try to figure out whether we should overweight to the Aussie or the Kiwi on that. Nothing right this second. Nothing sticks out at the moment on that. All right, so moving on into the pound. Try to run through this quickly. Hold on. Sip of my coffee. Pound dollar. I mean, man, kind of missed it there on the last candle. Right there at the end of Asian session, it looks like we got the entry. What is the pound doing? The dollar's very strong today. It's part of what's going on here. The pound is obviously very strong, but the dollar is also strong. So this is not necessarily the best combination. We talk about relative volatility a lot, and the pound relative to the dollar is probably, the pound and the dollar are probably not the best choice right now, because the pound and the dollar are both strong, and there's very little relative volatility between the pound relative to the dollar. If they're both strong, then there's not much distance being traveled between the two. So this is kind of, could be choppy here. I would definitely watch this though, because of where this is. It's very low, and we've already talked about the potential dynamic between the euro and the pound, with potential pound strength, right? If euro pound is likely going to be weak, then that could mean that the pound is going to be strong. Again, the pound relative to the euro. So how does that match up with the pound relative to the dollar is going to be the question. We'll take another look at the dollar in a little bit, but if you look at where this is, where Mr. Slithery the snake is going, what's next in the sequence? I'll let the geniuses answer the question. So, and this is just a thought experiment again, but there's a very important point to that thought experiment. So we're going to watch this clearly. I would let this pull back a little bit. If this were to pull back and potentially start putting in some kind of high or low or something, I'm definitely going to be looking to go long pound dollar. And this could be dollar weakness coming in too. And we'll look at that relative to the dollar in just a little bit. We're going to mark this because there's a very good potential opportunity coming on pound dollar. Even if this were to pull up here just to make a lower high, we're talking 400 to 500 pips to make a lower high. We don't do trend lines here, but just to illustrate the point, to make it easy to understand quickly, if this were to pull up and even fail, just come up here and fail and make a lower high, you're still looking at like 450 pips to make a lower high. What if it makes a higher high? Massive potential here on this. Huge potential on pound dollar. So we're going to pay very close attention to this as the week goes on. If this pulls back down a little bit, we're going to first anticipate that it's going to make a higher low. So we'll look at that. Won't get into specific strategy on this, but we're going to look at this on lower time frames and watch our range tool and stalk that entry. Pound dollar market. Pound yen. The yen is a different story than the dollar right now. And that's another thing we may talk about is dollar yen and the ridiculousness that's going on with that right now. But pound yen, the yen is very weak, extremely weak. So this has made a ridiculous move. Again, the yen relative to the pound has been very weak. The pound is very strong. The yen is very weak. That's a perfect storm for this. It's a good synergy. So now that this has popped up and this is still in a range contraction, we're actually looking for went long on this last week. We're looking for this to run up. Mine closed, unfortunately, but this is kind of a range contraction where we're still contracting in. We're getting reduced volatility and we're probably going to get something like this. So just be aware that we've just made a big move and it's probably just going to collapse in on itself, contract. It's a range contraction that's likely. We'll watch where our weekly and daily highs may be. This may be a thing. This may be a thing later. So this was obviously a big move. There's probably going to be a retracement short coming today on this, probably going into New York session. It's going to be a short. If I had to guess, we'll come back to it. We'll just mark it. So remember to look at it. Pound CAD. I mean, I don't know what to say about this. I've been trying to catch this every single time it gets on the low, end up catching it and it just doesn't go. Maybe this is the time. Maybe this week is the week. Gosh, this thing is low. It's just low, man. Like you want to be long on this. You want to be long pound CAD, but wait for it to take pullbacks and stuff. If this thing will pull back a little bit, I'm going to give it another shot this week. When this trade goes, it's going to be biblical. It's so crazy low that, just any retracement, you're looking at literally like 1,000 pips. Like, I don't even know what to say about it. So I don't know. Going to wait for it to pull back. Not going to jump into this long right now. You can kind of see what's going on. There's a block forming here on lower time frames. You got our spike high and spike low. That's a telltale sign that we're forming some type of block right now. And we want to stay out of the middle. We only want to enter long in the low end of it and short in the top end of it, depending on where we are. But in structure, we're really only looking for longs here. Want to be very careful shorting this. You get your face melted. When it goes, it's going to go hard. Just hasn't done it yet. It just hasn't done it yet. So we're going to look at some levels on the way up. I mean, there's so far to go. I don't even know what to say. So again, looking for pullbacks on it. Keep it marked. It looks great. Pound Swiss, same situation. This looks like a big long about to happen. We still haven't taken out the short stops up here. Consolidation, manufacturer liquidity, took out the lows. At some point, this is going to run back up and take out those highs. It's really looking good for a long, just on a pullback. You're buying red candles on this and looking for it to hold the low. Not much to say. Again, we're starting to get this picture painted of a bullish pound. That's kind of, every morning, especially every week, every beginning of the week, the market comes in and dumps a bucket of puzzle pieces out on the table, and we got to put the puzzle together as quickly as possible so we can see the big picture of the market. And the picture that's being painted here is potentially a bullish pound. So we'll keep an eye on that, and just keep an eye on that as the week goes on. That structurally and higher time frame wise, we're probably looking at some type of upside reversal in the pound. We're going to get some upside at some point. Pound Aussie, moving on. Same thing. We're just on the lows and shifting off the low. There you go. We just shifted out of this range. This thing's about to be gone. Got some targets to the upside. We'll watch. This sticks out like a sore thumb. Those shorts that were correct and have not been stopped out yet. Market pushed from there. We'll watch where our range highs are going to be. Good game, Pound Aussie. It's already taken off. You don't want to buy into it now. You're just buying into a big bunch of mess over here to the left. But again, there's so much room for these things to go up. This pound is still looking like a lot of upside here. Pound Kiwi, same situation, shifted up off the low. It's just there's so much room for it to go. It's a higher low here too. Kind of almost like a double bottom, but marginally higher. There's room for it to go up. You just don't want to jump in it now. Let it pull back first and go into some kind of a range, and then we'll try it from the bottom of the range. How this stuff works, it'll go up here and it'll make it some kind of a high, and then it'll pull back and do this kind of thing like this and go into a consolidation, but not break the low. It'll probably not break the low like that. And, and this is the thing we're going to be watching right here. Very important block of price right there. We'll be watching that for some type of a range high. See if it pulls back and get some consolidation like this. So when it pulls back, we'll be looking to get long again to potentially go up and out over the next little bit. But again, these are 4-hour candles. So probably going to be downside first. It's what it kind of looks like. It looks like the pound's going to pull back, but then go big to the upside. Kind of getting that across the board. So we'll watch this first. I would venture to say that this is probably going to be somewhere near our projected high of the day, statistically. Our interquartile range. It's the G13 classified. CAD yen. Oh no, I've said too much. CAD yen. I mean, dumb high. Nothing to say. It's a short, period. End of story. Shorted at the high of the day, high of the week. You're selling the high of the day every day on this. We've now broken the high in this macro range. I mean, if you go out to a daily or a weekly chart, you have to go out that far to see how high this actually is. It's pretty unbelievable how high this thing really is right this second at the top of this range. I mean, there's such a huge possibility that this pulls back ridiculous. I mean, it's in the plural, thousands with an S, thousands of pips potential on a pullback. Look at this gap right here underneath this range. If it pulls back into this density right here, that's like 2,000 pips. Yeah, 1,700 pips. Do you want to sell the top of a range, or do you want to try to buy a breakout on a 20-year high? You decide. Think about the logic. So again, going to try to sell this again this week. I'll keep trying it until it goes. Keep catching it. We keep catching it every time. And So now it's broken the high again. So here we go. I'm gonna try it again. We'll watch this. Definitely mark CAD yen on your. It's just mark it. The yen is pretty ridiculous, and when the stuff turns around, it's gonna be an epic move. So again, we are on a broken high. We've now broken the high. We have a new high on CAD yen. We'll take a look at this on lower time frames. Gonna mark all these and take looks. Yeah. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Yeah. So again, we'll watch this. We've caught this a few times. Crazy yen move though. That's just very weak on the yen, and we'll see if that turns around maybe this week. Boy, this euro pound is killing it right now. Positions up 250 on that euro pound, murdering that. Bot's up 390 right now. Bot's up $400. You can see it or not. It's about to break 400. Doing pretty well. So yeah, CAD yen, we'll watch that. Nothing really to say. It's broken the high again. Everyone needs to pay attention to that. When something breaks a big high like that, it's time to start paying attention to it, because everybody who's been long there, what better time is there to take profit than the highest high? Think about the logic of what I just said. Do you want to buy the highest high, or do you want to take profit on the highest high that you've already been in? It's all the smart money traders that have already been in that. Are they trying to buy the top, or are they trying to sell the top? Just think about what I'm saying logically. Dollar CAD. Same kind of situation here. We'll watch the dollar. Again, kind of looking for the CAD to turn around and come down a little bit, but this could be weird. This may distribute up here because the dollar and the CAD are both very high. So in theory, they could both be turning around back to pull back a little bit to the downside at the same time. This may be a low relative volatility situation where you've got two currency indexes traveling in the same direction. May not necessarily be the best thing. One will always outperform the other, obviously. Could be a short. I would wait and see if it breaks the high first. We'll skip this one for now. It's not in a good spot. We're right in between, your effective trading range is here. You're in between your highs and lows. It's right in the middle. It's not really a good place to take a position from. So we'll kind of skip that one for now. NASDAQ. Not much here. We've been all over this for a while. Done very well trading the indices lately. Price action looks bullish, to be honest. This kind of squared up price action right here. This is one thing we talk about a lot. This is really just a mini cycle playing out. You had a cycle low. You had this. If you look at very low time frames, like 5 minute, 15 minute, you'll see a cycle playing out here, and then you've got the low of the cycle. It's popped up into a level 1 range here, so it's probably just going to go up and retest this right here. And what's probably happening is this: there's some kind of range that's being formed here on higher time frames, and we're just going back up to retest the top of it, is what it looks like. My money is on upside today in equities market, so we're gonna again mark that. We'll take a look at it. Take a look at the S&P. Same thing. You may see this like W kind of thing forming. It's really just a range, and we're going back up to retest the top of it, is what it looks like. I'm betting we're going to have some upside in equities today, and that can be useful if we know that, because that can help us understand what's going on with the yen and the dollar, also the Swiss franc to some degree, because of the way the rates are, and the carry trade, something we talk about. We won't get into this on the YouTube stuff, but the carry trade and rotation at an institutional level, how that works and why we pay attention to it. How the equities market has a direct effect on certain currencies, specifically the yen. So that's something we'll take a look at. Could be yen weakness also. If the equities market's going to go up, could be weakness in the yen. So we'll watch that. US 30, the Dow. We'll skip the Dow. You're going to get identical price action there, identical structure most of the time to the S&P and the NASDAQ. There'll be slight variations, especially with the NASDAQ, but it's going to do the same thing pretty much. They're traded as a basket. We'll see. My guess is upside. Moving on, oil. I had a good short on that last week. It's just ranging on the low. We're just back on the bottom. Honestly, not a big fan of this retesting the low like this. Whenever I see something retesting a low after coming down, that doesn't look good, man. It looks like it's going to bounce up and fail and then go and break the low. But then when it does, I don't know if it's going to run back up. So we got a possibility of some lower oil here. So we've been trying to get long on this, and we're back down on the low. The aggressive trade is going to be long from the bottom of this range, but we want to be careful with this. I'd rather take a look at it on lower time frames and try to figure out what's going on, because we're retesting the bottom. That being said, it's the bottom. It's the bottom of a big, huge, massive range that's clearly holding above a previous consolidation. We don't want to be short here. We don't want to sell this now. You don't want to sell the bottom. You got a 30% upside, 30 to 40% to the upside potential to retest the high. We don't want to sell it now. That's what we don't want to do now. Whether or not we want to buy it is the question. But we know we don't want to sell the bottom, right? With a 30 to 40% upside. Unless there's a fundamental change here, which there's not. We're just back in the buy zone. We're entering the buy zone again today. Now I may wait and see either if this holds or if it breaks the low. And if it breaks the low, could just be a big manipulation thing going on here. Just run down. This is the kind of manipulation trades that we look for. If it'll run down and smack that low, we're looking to get long because we know how big the upside is. So we'll watch this on lower time frames. Mark oil, we'll look at it. Moving on, gold. It's very low, same thing, big, huge range low. We're back at the bottom of it. Oil and gold both retested the low. This doesn't look very good here. And again, we'll see something on lower time frames on this, but one thing we talk about is our shark fin reversal. It's a manipulation trade where a price is held in a consolidation. Liquidity is built above and below the range consolidation, and they go back and take both sides out. This is manipulation to go out and take out the shorts and then go back and take out the longs and then rip it in whatever the true direction is. It's probably going to be to the upside if I had to guess. This is probably going to stall a little bit and then end up breaking the low on gold. Just from what the price action looks like, it kind of sucks right now. We're back into a dense consolidation. So you're trading from the middle of a dense consolidation again. So that's not really the best place to take a position from. My guess is that it's going to go lower. We'll have to take a look at that. Man, bot's killing it. Let's look at this thing. This thing was up to like 430 a second ago. Running it today. It's that new strategy, smart grid strategy, where it dynamically slides its targets depending on how much risk it has on. It's doing pretty well. So what is the general consensus here in the market? What have we identified? We've identified a very high dollar that at some point is probably going to pull back down. So that's a thing. We're going to watch pound dollar because of that. We're going to watch euro dollar because of that. I think pound dollar is probably going to outperform euro dollar if I had to guess. Aussie dollar is going to be one to watch because it's a structural thing, but price action's a little funky right now. Euro yen, potential short inbound early this week, may or may not be right this second. We're going to watch the high of the day and see what that looks like. But again, we're on a very strong peak high here, another one. So after every peak high, we're likely to get a retracement, right? And we're going to try to catch that short retracement. So euro yen is a thing. As far as crypto goes, watch equities. Again, it would make sense that the equities market goes up. And the first thing we looked at was Bitcoin. It looks like that's probably going to run back up to the top of the range, but no big major moves, no face melting moves here, but probably a little bit higher today. So we'll watch that. The pound. We've identified a strength in the pound likely coming. Pound CAD, I really want to be long pound CAD, just not from here, from lower. It's kind of a bummer. Should have taken another shot at it the other day. On Friday was the entry. Just on the low on Friday was it. It was like a capitulation to the downside. And now, of course, it's ripping back up. Long way to go on this. So that's kind of the picture we're being painted. The yen is in a different class of its own here. Anything against the yen we want to be careful with. Maybe some shorts here. May leave pound yen alone. It's just going to be further chop and consolidation. I bet it just comes right back into this consolidation because the pound is likely to be strong and the yen is likely to be strong at the same time. So this is probably just going to do this kind of crap. I bet you it just floats back lower and just doesn't make any big moves. It's going to be very frustrating and choppy on lower time frames. We'll skip that. Pound Swiss, probably a really good shot at some upside here. Pound Aussie's already started moving as it pulls back. We'll look at that. And pound Kiwi. CAD yen is the other one. Euro yen and CAD yen. It's probably going to be a basket short. We'll look for the things that are likely to be weaker. The currency indexes that are likely to be weaker, we'll look at those against the yen this week. First of the week, we'll look for those short. We're on a big peak high here. Big major multi-year high on CAD yen. Don't miss that. It's going to be another one. We're going to catch this again. Just you can take comfort in knowing that we will catch this again this week for one of those big shorts. That's going to happen. Pretty confident about that. Equities market, probably some upside today. It looks like there's no guarantees here and no confirmation yet, but this price action looks like it's going to scoop up a little bit, and that up a little bit is what we need. So we'll look and see where we are here. Haven't really moved much. Nothing happened yesterday over Labor Day. Didn't get any movement. It's a very tight range. So we'll see if that kind of pulls out of that range today. My guess is to the upside in equities. So we'll watch that. Oil again off the low. Monitoring this. Not making a decision, but monitoring it on oil. And gold, same thing. Likely some kind of a downside back through that consolidation. It's just the price action looks like that. We'll watch and see. We'll wait and see if it stops here and puts in a range. There's two possibilities here. This is either going to stall and go retest the high and put in, kind of a range above this consolidation, or it's just going to run all the way back through and end up just expanding the range and coming back in, where you get a higher high and a lower low. So it's one of those two options. It can either stop here and go back and retest a high, or it can pull back through and pull a range expansion. So we'll keep an eye on it. It's kind of the market right now. A little bit slow this morning. Got a big move in the yen overnight. The pound is very strong right now, which is what we figured. We're kind of waiting for stuff to pull back, and we'll see what we can get into as far as entries go. We'll take a look at that stuff in the group right now. Hope everybody has a good day, and we'll talk to you in just a little bit.